My name is Lisa Mueller, and I am the founder and creator of the Nation2Nation events here in Terrace BC, and we are at my home here in Terrace. So I started the forum back in 2014-15 with the idea to give First Nations a platform to talk about what economic development is to them and for them here in the Northwest, but to also create a platform for them to share that open discussion with the government and also with industry. So the forum was started in 2015, first forum here in Terrace, for First Nation leaders to share economic development ideas and thoughts and what it looks like from their perspective, from their nation, from their governments, and how they can work better with government and industry up here in the Northwest. Well, there's not really any conversation here going on in Terrace area and for the surrounding communities around economic development, around the issues that are going on right now with, government and with industry and First Nation leaders. We always are having these conversations in Vancouver and Calgary and the bigger centers, and I really felt that this conversation needed to take place here in Terrace in our own backyard, where all the industry takes place and all these big opportunities with First Nations that are going on up here. We're forever having the conversations outside of the Northwest, and I thought we needed to bring the conversation into the Northwest. Well, we're going into our fourth year here in 2018. Will be our fourth annual Nation2Nation event here in the fall. It always takes place here in the fall. And the difference that I've made, I think I've brought leaders to the forefront of platforms right here in Terrace, in the city of Terrace, that people don't have access to. The local business owners, the local people, the local First Nations, the local just everyday people. I've given them access to these speakers, to what's going on. I've brought in big name speakers from the cities, from the US into Terrace. Just speakers that nobody would have access to unless you've traveled out of Terrace. And I felt a very important need that these conversations take place with these leaders right here in the city. Gap's still very big, and I think that in order to create any kind of change, it needs to take place in the First Nation communities within their territories with their own economic development. That's where the change is going to take place, with them creating their own change with their own money, with their own beliefs and their own culture systems. It's not going to take place from the top up, it has to take place from the ground up. And we have to, First Nation leaders and First Nations within their territories have to figure out how to access more bigger projects to create that wealth within the community that needs this change for this gap, because there's a big gap there and nobody else is going to help us First Nations but the First Nations ourselves. Government can't help, industry can't help, they can only create the opportunities. It's for the First Nation leaders to take these opportunities and to create wealth within their communities. It's only going to take place there, because the changes we need with the poverty, with the water, it all requires big money. And that big money is only coming from economic development and big investments. Yeah. So the opportunities are there. It's the First Nation leaders that need to take them. And I feel that with the forum that I've created, that was my whole thing with the forum, was to bring these conversations and these topics to the forefronts in the local communities where it's actually happening. Here in Terrace, it services all the First Nation communities around. We fly out of here, we fly in, this is where our banks are. So we rely on Terrace, the surrounding communities. And so these conversations, they need to happen in our backyard, or when they take place out of the city, like in Vancouver and Calgary or in further away, the local people aren't hearing what the topics are and how we're creating change and how we're coming up with new projects. Yeah, and it's very important that we have these conversations in our own backyard. That's what we lack. What happens at the Nation2Nation events is it is a full day of very personal, in-depth conversations with a mix of First Nation leaders, government, industry, and local business owners. So I usually have about 3 to 4 panels with 3 or 4 different people on these panels. I have 2-3 keynotes, and then a social event at the end of the day. So it's just a place for everyone to gather for the day and have conversations. I've made a bit of changes this year. I've put it over 2 days, adding some workshops. But if you want to know any more information about the Nation2Nation Forum, go to Nation2Nation.ca and you'll find out everything there.